38-year-old school bus driver, Atina Miller, is suing her son, Charlie Washington, his girlfriend, Michelle Hastings, and Michelle's mother, Brenda Hastings. She claims they owe her for unpaid rent and credit card charges. Michelle and Charlie are countersuing for damages to their car.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 346 on the calendar in the matter of Miller versus Hastings, Washington. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Who are you?
Brenda Hastings. I'm Michelle's mother.
How old is Michelle?
17.
Okay. Miss Miller, Michelle is your son's girlfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your son.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're really suing your son and his girlfriend. Her mother is here because she's a minor.
Yes, ma'am.
It appears from what I've read that you decided to rent a house. You were
Yes,
separating from your husband or something like that.
Yes, ma'am.
And that your son and his girlfriend said that they wanted to come and live with you. You say that this didn't work out, but they owe you for back rent. They owe you for money that they put on your credit card. They have a counterclaim. And their counterclaim involves both of their cars, which they say that you took, you hid, and caused damage to.
No, ma'am.
So that's what the case is about. Very complicated. When did you decide to rent this house?
About the second week of September.
And what was the rent on the house?
$575 a month.
And what was your arrangement with your son and his girlfriend?
I had planned on moving. My husband and I were just going to separate for a little while to work out some differences. There was a duplex that I had been waiting on that was around the corner from the house. My 15-year-old son had told Charlie here that we were moving, and Charlie indicated to him that he needed a place to go. He was tired of the stuff at Brenda's house. I had talked to Charlie.
He had been living with you? Is that right? How old are you?
19.
I had talked to Charlie and told him that was fine. There was no mention of Michelle at the time. That came up later with Charlie saying that she don't really act like she acts, but she'll act better when she's not around her mother. I thought about it for a while, and I said, well, we'll give it a try.
This is a lot of information that I really don't need.
Okay. Well, I went up and asked the landlord, and the landlord said they were renting it.
Okay, fine. So you decided to rent it, and you decided to let the two of them move in with you.
Right.
And what was the financial arrangement with them?
We would go on the rent 3 ways.
Did you discuss that with her mother?
No, ma'am.
And you knew she was 17?
Her mother had put her out.
Negative.
They wanted both. They had asked several times for both of these to put them out. And my young son here, Derek,
Miss Miller,
can tell you.
That's not my question. My question was, you knew that Michelle was 17.
Yes, I did.
Okay, Michelle cannot enter into a contract with you because she's a minor. So if you did not have an agreement with her mother to pay a third of the rent, you cannot sue Michelle for a third of any rent that you believe she owes you. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's do away with that. Now, so let's deal with your son. Did your son give you any money towards the rent?
No, ma'am.
Yes,
He gave
I
me
did.
$150 to help put on deposits on the utilities.
So he gave you $150?
Yes, ma'am.
How long did they live in the house?
6 weeks.
Negative.
3 weeks. 6 weeks.
We moved
And
in
when
the
did you
3rd,
move out of the house?
The 28th.
Of September?
Yes, ma'am.
Charlie did not move out of that house until the 10th of October.
I moved out the 28th.
You stayed there. You were on the run from the police.
Shh, just a second. Miss Miller,
Yes, ma'am.
what rent do you believe your son owes you?
For him and Michelle, then should have been half of the $575.
No. Miss Miller, he's supposed to pay a third of the rent, right?
Right. But I have a 15-year-old at home that these two here complained what was his part of the rent because he was getting child support.
Did you move in with another child?
The 15-year-old moved in shortly after these two did. He didn't stay there all the time, but he was there.
What about you? Did you move in?
I didn't move in until the 24th
Of September? September?
No, August. Oh, no, it was September. I'm sorry. I didn't even stay there half of the time.
Miss
I
Miller,
stayed maybe a whole week
Miss
out of
Miller, did you move in August 24th or September 24th?
there. September 24th.
Okay, well, let's go to the credit cards that you say that they used. How did they come to have possession of your credit cards?
They didn't have possessions. We had an agreement. I have a letter from the landlord because Mrs. Hastings was putting them out. We had an agreement to try to get the house livable for them to live in so they had a roof over their heads. And
didn't
You're
We-
talking
That's
about
all.
credit cards, Miss Miller. Let me hear about the credit cards money.
I put my credit cards, to get the house in order for them to live in, they had to have floors, they had to have cabinets, it had to have everything. The house was gutted out. It had to have everything.
So is that what was put on your credit card?
Yes,
So why do you think they should pay for that?
because we're in agreement. Mrs. Hastings put them out.
Negative.
Stop saying Mrs. Hastings put them out. It doesn't make any difference whether she put them out or not. Now, am I
It
correct
does
that...
make a difference.
No,
Yes,
it doesn't make a
does.
difference legally.
Her mother put them out. He didn't have a place to go.
She
He
didn't
cannot
put
go
us
to
out.
my house that I own. My husband will not let him stay there. He's already ripped us off. He's breaking into the house. He's broken into the garage. He's not allowed on the property. Okay?
Miss Miller.
I did what I could to get him a roof over his head.
Miss
and I
Miller,
got
you're his
repaid.
mother. Listen to me. You're his mother.
Excuse me, ma'am, but this boy, I've got papers. This boy has been in and out of jail, detentions. He was stolen from me when he was
That don't have
14
nothing to
months
do with
old. I've got legal documents, Charlie, to prove it all.
Miss Miller,
He's on drugs. I've tried for years to get him help, okay?
Miss Miller, listen to me. I understand that you have a frustration with him.
If you've
And
helped
from-
him out as much as I have in a lifetime, you would too.
Miss Miller, listen to me. If Miss Hastings allowed your son to come and live in her house with her 17-year-old daughter, then she's got rocks in her head and probably decided she had had enough. Bottom line, that's your son. It's not her son. And if she had had enough of him and was putting him out, and her daughter Michelle says, I'm not staying here without him, then she says, you want to go with him? Go with him.
He's been living there with her since she was 15 and he was 17.
You want to know something?
And she's put him out 3 times.
Miss
And I
Miller.
have been there,
Miss
Charlie.
Miller.
Negative.
Miss Miller.
Yeah, okay.
Miss Miller.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your son. And if she's put him out 3 times, and if he was living there from the time he was 17 years old, it had to have been because you and your husband put him out.
Exactly.
No, he left
Exactly.
on his, no, you left on your own
Miss
because
Miller,
you
don't
were
talk
on
to him.
drugs, Charlie.
Miss
You were
Miller,
selling drugs
1, 2,
out of my
3.
house.
Miss Miller.
And I called the police
Put her
on you.
outside.
That's why you left.
Put her outside. I'm going to let you cool off outside, Miss Miller.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tina Miller says her son Charlie Washington, his girlfriend Michelle Hastings, and Michelle's mother Brenda owe for rent and repairs to her home.
Okay. Miss Miller, you can't talk to your son. This is not a time for you to shout at your son when you're in a court. Time to do that is when you had him in therapy when he was 7 years old. If your son had been giving you problems and moved out of your house, whether you put him out of your house or whether he left voluntarily, you knew where he was living with the Hastings family and their daughter, that was probably a major error on their part. Some people do that. I never quite understand why they've taken somebody else's problem into their home. But be that as it may, if you decided that you wanted to put a roof over your son's head as his mother, that's what your job is. That kind of unconditional love is what you do for a child, even if they drive you crazy. Are you currently living in the house?
No, ma'am.
Did you decide to go back to your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that where you are now?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that where you're going to stay, you think?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about the cars. You took your son's car out of impound?
I paid to get it out. Yes, ma'am.
What'd you do with it?
Set it in my backyard.
And what happened to it?
It sat there until the day that he came and threatened me. And then I took it down on the corner
Crazy.
where I told him and the police officer that I would set it and left the keys in it, that in the Nissan.
And somebody stole it?
I don't know.
Well, it wasn't found on the corner, is that right?
I don't know where they found it at.
Where did you find your car?
I found mine in a ditch on Orville Smith.
It was not in a ditch. I got pictures of where I left it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So what you're saying is somebody took the car after you left it there with the keys in it. Why'd you leave it there with the keys in it?
There was no keys in it.
There was keys in it.
Crazy.
When you left it, the keys were in it. So I'm asking you, why did you leave it with the keys in the car?
He came, he harassed me. I didn't want him on the property. And for him to come get the keys, then he would have to come on the property. And I talked to him in the back of the police car and told him.
What were the police doing there?
I called him because he threatened me
When did he threaten you?
when he came to the house.
Was this after he had moved out of the rental house?
No, he was in jail. He had just gotten out October 31st, and I didn't know he was out of jail.
What was he in jail for?
Theft of property from an auto and breaking and entering of an auto.
What were you in jail for?
Assault the third.
He was also in jail for that.
Assault the third.
Who did you assault?
My girlfriend.
You ever arrested for breaking and entering?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
In 97.
What about auto theft?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got his car out of impound, you told the police he had threatened you, you were taking the car, you were parking it at the corner, you were leaving the keys in the car, and that's the last you know of the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And you found the car when you got out of jail, sir?
I did.
Where did you find it?
It's on Orville Smith Road. She parked it in the edge of the woods.
No, she doesn't park it anywhere. You found it there. You didn't
I
see
found it there.
You found it there.
I got out and I looked and I turned around and I went back to my house. And I brought him down there and he couldn't find no keys nowhere in the car.
Well, maybe somebody who stole the car took the keys after they finished joyriding in the car. What about your car?
Well, my mother and my father found it in a hayfield.
What makes you think that Miss Miller took your car?
Because she stole the keys out of my purse. I didn't have it in my possession.
No, I did not steal the keys from her purse. This key goes to a car of Charlie's that he has in their yard. I don't know if it runs or not, but it was sent this key ring with this key. And when I talked to Charlie on the phone after he had beat up Michelle, he told me one of them keys went to the car. And that's how I got the car.
So what did you do with the car?
Charlie explained for me to take the car to my house and park it and not to let Michelle have the car.
You mean her car?
No, it's his car. It's legally in his name.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is your car,
Yes, ma'am.
the car that you're talking about, that you're suing over, in whose name is that car titled?
Yes.
You have two cars titled in your name?
Yes, ma'am.
What year cars are they?
94 and 87.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I was working at Arby's.
At Arby's? Who bought the cars?
I bought one, she bought one. But she wasn't old enough to put it in her name, so I signed for it.
Why didn't her mother sign for it?
Because they went and got it without me. I was at work. They went looking at cars. They picked up one and she bought it.
Miss Hastings,
Yes.
is he still living in your house?
He is right now, yeah.
You had him arrested for beating up your daughter. You've thrown him out of your house at least 3 times.
No.
He left your house 3 times in the last 2 years. You took him into his house,
He has
into
been
your
in the
house when he
house
was
a year.
17 years old. Since he was 17 years old, he's been arrested several times, according to him, for a variety of things. Breaking and entering, auto theft, assaulting your daughter. Would you kindly tell me what kind of medication you're on? Because I want to take some. If you don't see that he's not right for her.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. But Tina Miller says her son Charlie Washington, his girlfriend Michelle Hastings, and Michelle's mother Brenda owe for rent and repairs to her home.
Miss Hastings, he's not right for her.
He may not be right for her, but everybody has to make their own choices. And
Hey. Everybody has to make their own choices once they're an adult. Until you're an adult, your parents help you make those choices, and they don't do things that encourage you to make bad choices.
well, Tina has put her son out several times.
Tina's son is a bum. Was your daughter a bum when she was 15?
No, my daughter was in school when she was 15.
Is she still in school?
She's going to night classes.
No. Before she met him, she was in school.
Yeah, but she can't.
After she met him, she's not in school.
Had nothing to do with him.
Oh, listen, Miss Miller,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to give you some words of advice. Is this the first child that you've had that's been in trouble?
Yes, ma'am.
You think you know how to deal with it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how you're dealing with it.
I work with it the best I can.
My advice to you is you be there as a backup in case of an emergency, in case something bad happens. But until he grows up and stops doing things that are both harmful to himself, to the people that care about him, and to you, he's going to have to make his own mistakes. If you put yourself in a financial position where you've stretched your finances, it's a foolish thing to do. Because what will happen is he will never be forced to grow up. You tell me you put him out of the house, or he left the house when he was 15. the Hastings took him in. And when the Hastings decided to put him out, you provided a roof over his head. He's never had to grow up and face responsibility. Had 2 cars titled in his name, working at Arby's.
Well, he didn't buy the car. The Firebird was given to him as a gift by me and my husband. I did not put him out of the house. He had a choice. He could go to jail or he could go back to Michigan to his dad. He took off on his own. He was on the run. We did look for him. He stayed with a friend of his up in a trailer, drinking, getting high. The owner of the trailer came to our house, wanted to know what was up. We went up there. He was gone.
Okay. Ms. Hastings, I've already told you what I think of the fact that you allowed him to move back into your house after he beat up your daughter. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Absolutely the dumbest. And if your daughter wants to be dumb enough to take off with him, as you said, people make their own choices, but you're making it real comfortable for her to do things that ultimately are going to be devastating.
It doesn't matter in what they have done. I mean, it's the car situation. It's her having them to move into a rental house because her marriage, she moved out.
I'm not, listen to me. I'm not dealing with your lawsuits. Both of your lawsuits are nonsense. Hers, she cannot convince me that her son owes her any money. With regard to the cars, you have no proof whatsoever that your mother took your car, put it in a ditch. She says that after an argument with you, she told the police, I'm putting the car on the street corner with the keys in it. I don't want him anywhere near my house. A reasonable explanation is that somebody walked by, saw the keys in the car, took it for a joyride, and trashed it. I think that both of you, but especially you, Miss Hastings, I don't understand you at all. What do you do all day, sir?
Now,
Now.
go to school
No, you don't.
at night.
I asked you what you did during the day. Don't tell me that you go to school at night. What do you do all day?
Hunt for jobs.
Hunt for jobs. Michelle, what do you do all day?
Work
Where?
at Walmart.
You work 5 days a week?
8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
And you come home and he's watching TV? Michelle, look at me. You come home and he's watching TV?
I don't know what he does during the day.
Michelle, before you get pregnant, get smart. You'll be working at Walmart, 9 months pregnant, and he's going to be sitting home playing with Nintendo that you will have bought him for Christmas. Get smart. Cases are dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
33-year-old electronics salesman David Bridges and his wife Tammy are suing the stepmother of their daughter's boyfriend, 48-year-old restaurant manager Jackie Kimbrell. The Bridges say Jackie burned their daughter's CDs. Jackie is countersuing for the return of luggage.
Order. All rise.
This is case number 342 on the calendar in the matter of Bridges versus Kimbrell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
You're Mrs. Bridges?
Yes, ma'am.
And who are you?
I'm Mr. Bridges, David.
Well, you weren't there during the course of this incident that brings us to court today.
No, ma'am.
Is that right? So why don't you have a seat?
Okay.
Tell me your first name.
Brittany.
Brittany, you have a boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Your boyfriend is her stepson.
Yes, ma'am.
Is your boyfriend here today?
Yes, ma'am.
Boyfriend. According to your complaint, you were at the defendant's house. You were having an argument with your boyfriend. The argument got kind of loud. The defendant, the stepmother, came outside. There was some sort of an altercation, and at the end of this altercation, according to you, the defendant burned up all of your CDs.
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing for the value of those CDs and also some mental anguish. And she has a rather interesting defense to the CDs, although she acknowledges she burned them, correct?
That's right.
When did this incident occur?
July 3rd.
And you were at the defendant's home.
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing there?
Me and my boyfriend went up there to go swimming
How long has he been your boyfriend?
for nearly 2 years.
So you know the defendant very well.
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that you had always had a nice relationship with her.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened on this particular day when you went over there to go swimming?
Well, me and him got into an argument, and she came out there and was asking, she was in our argument, and...
What did she say?
She was just trying to, ask us what was going on, and we told her, and she was like, well, y'all don't need to be fighting and all this. Then she started getting ill with Rodney. So Rodney...
She started to get what?
Ill, and was just starting to holler at Rodney.
Where was this argument taking place, Brittany?
We were walking down from the pool house when me and him was arguing, going to the house, and then she came outside.
Were you yelling? Were you raising your voices?
No, ma'am.
What were you arguing about?
The tanning bed.
Tanning bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
We were arguing who was going to get in first. It was stupid.
Okay. So she came out and she started hollering at the boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Her stepson.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And then Rodney just told her that we wanted to leave. So he went to the house and got all his clothes and put them in his car, and her car was parked behind his car, which was in the garage. And it was blocked in, and he asked her, he said, will you move your car? And she said, no, y'all are not leaving. He said, yes, we can leave if we want to. And she said, no, I'd like to see y'all leave. So that time, Rodney just said, look, I'm going to call your mom and see if we can call the police to get my car out of the way. And so we walked over to the side of the house and called the police. And that time, she walked over there and got in his car and got all of his clothes and my CDs. We didn't know what was going on. Then her granddaughter and grandson came over there and told us that she was burning all of our stuff.
What happened next?
We ran over there, and Rodney kicked over the 55-gallon drum to see if anything was saved, and everything was burned.
Was there a fire in the 55-gallon
Yes,
drum? What was in the fire?
All his clothes and my CDs.
So what happened after you saw your stuff burning?
Well, she was yelling at me, trying to fight me.
What do you mean try to fight you?
She told me, when we went up to the fire, she was like, get off my property, and we were like, okay. And then she was chasing me out into the road, trying to fight me, for I don't know what reason.
All right, Miss Kimbrough, let me hear your version of these events.
Okay, they were out in the yard fighting. First, my husband went out, and he couldn't stop them, so I went out, and they had went back up to the pool. And I asked them what happened, and Brittany said it was her fault. And I said, Rodney, no matter whose fault it is, you don't need to be talking to her like that, and you don't need to be cussing. Our neighbors...
Is that what he was doing? He was cursing?
Very badly. Both of them were cursing. And I told them not to do that because our neighbors had called and could hear them, and our 2 grandchildren was there and heard it. So they came running back down to the house, and Rodney went into the bathroom, got his clothes out of the dryer, and he said he was leaving. But now his car was in my carport because it wouldn't run. It wouldn't even crank. So I knew he couldn't go nowhere, but I did ask him to leave. And my daughter Summer had came up, and something had happened earlier that day that I don't really know, but Brittany and Rodney and Summer were arguing. Well, when she came up, they started again. And I was trying to stop them, and when Summer walked over, Rodney pushed her back, and then when he pushed Summer, I started over there, and he just, pushed me. And when Brittany was cussing us, Rodney was standing there with his hands out like this, letting her cuss. And I just said, would you please call your mother to come get you, Brittany? So Rodney looked at his daddy and said something really bad. And I don't know if, I should say that, but it was really said no effing body could whip him. And then he looked at me and he told me something really bad that it's hard to say, but he took off running when he said it. And I got mad when he said that because it hurt me because I'd really been good to Rodney.
How long have you been married?
We've been married 13 years, but now we've raised Rodney most of those years he's been with us. And I grabbed his clothes, what few he had gotten out of the dryer, and I took them up to the barn and I burned them. And the CDs that was in there, I didn't see those when I grabbed the clothes. They just got mixed up because they was in the front seat of the car. And when I threw them over, I saw the case. It was a very small little CD case. And they were not Brittany's CDs.
How do you know that?
Well, they were Rodney's, and they was, in his car.
How do you know that?
Well, they had his name on them.
She says that they were her CDs.
No,
but in
ma'am.
a case that had his name on it.
It said Rodney Loves Brittany on the case. It didn't have just his name on it. I've got his CD case here, and I've got the CDs that was burned, the cases for them, what I had.
She had not said anything about the CDs at all until later that night when her stepdad called me and asked me for $600 to pay for the CDs.
I've got the burnt CDs too.
No, I believe that they were her CDs.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This one is called Mo Thugs, DMX, flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. Did you ever hear of Barry Manilow?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Brittany Manis says her boyfriend's stepmother, Jackie Kimbrell, burned her CDs.
What's important is, Miss Kimbrell, you're the mother. You acted out of anger when you burned the stuff. And certainly, I'm not excusing young kids who were outside in front of your house embarrassing you in front of your neighbors, cursing. Otherwise, there would have been no reason for you, nor your husband, to become involved. According to Brittany, you had always had a pleasant relationship. So you think she was just having a bad day, or were you and Rodney outside?
We weren't cursing.
No?
No, ma'am.
Well, what do you think Mr. Kimbrell came outside for?
We weren't cursing. We might have been raising our voice, but we wasn't
Okay, so
loud.
now we're raising voices. So
We
first
wasn't
you told
loud.
me you weren't raising voices, now you're raising voices. Did Rodney say something to his dad that was nasty?
Well, he said it to her,
He
to
said
Jackie.
it to both of us. He said
He
it to
hugged his
Roger.
dad and said it to Jackie.
Were you outside when he said that?
Yes, ma'am.
There were neighbors who lived close by?
I don't know how close. I don't know if there's somebody that lives right next door, but I know somebody lives in the trailer down the road.
There was a neighbor sitting directly across the house from me. His trailer sits in front, and he was sitting in his yard.
There isn't a question in my mind, Miss Kimbrell, that these CDs belong to Brittany. How many CDs were in your case?
31.
31?
Yes, ma'am.
How large was this case?
It was about this big, but we had them back to back, like 2 or 3 CDs in one little packet.
How do you know there were 31 CDs in there?
Because I've got all the CD cases that I had in there, most of them.
But what do you mean most of them?
That's just most of the CD cases that I have that I haven't lost. But I've written down all the names of the CDs.
Let me see them.
It was a very small CD case.
I think, Miss Kimbrell, you were probably
Here's
so
Rodney's
angry.
CD case, and here's the list.
You didn't much care what the CD case looked like. You just made a big grab
I was
for
very
every...
upset.
You just made a
Things he
big
said
grab
to me,
for
but it
everything.
wasn't
Here's the
small
list
case.
of the CDs.
These are the cases that are now empty. Is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So we have 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 empty cases. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. That's the ones that I could find.
Now, those are the only ones you're going to get. Now, you have a bill for these? How much were they?
We found the approximate amount for the 31 that was in there.
Forget 31. You have proof of these, 14. Let me see what kids listen to. 18 rock hard hits, 504 boys, B-O-Y-Z.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Booty Mix 4.
They've never been allowed to listen to him at my house.
This one is called Mo Thugs.
That has
Some
2
guys
CDs.
look like I sentenced a couple of years ago. Dr. Dre.
Yeah, that's right.
Is he a physician?
Not really.
Master P. Now, here are 4 normal-looking girls.
Destiny's Child. I
Very
like
nice-looking girls. Normal. DMX. Flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. What happened to Benny Goodman?
it. He was replaced by Bootleg Booty.
Bootleg Booty. Oh, Master P again. Who's the big fan of Master P?
Me.
You are.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever hear of Barry Manilow?
No, ma'am.
Never heard of Barry
No,
Manilow?
ma'am.
Okay. Now, if you're asking me about the worth of these albums, since you don't have receipts for them, right?
We don't usually keep our receipts for CDs.
How much do they cost?
On the average, about $15 a CD.
$210. 14 times 15. That's the average. What are you doing sitting over there? Who did you come to court with today?
Brittany?
Your Honor, I'll tell you the reason Rodney's here today is because he was threatened by David and Tammy to come to court, or at the time this happened, Brittany was 15 and Rodney was 19. And if Rodney will admit to telling the truth, this is what was said. They said that they was going to get him for a statutory rape if he didn't come to court and be a witness for Brittany. And said they'd never let him see Brittany again.
Your Honor, that is not true.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Brittany Manis says her boyfriend's stepmother, Jackie Kimbrough, burned her CDs.
Okay. On the CDs, you're going to get $210.
What about
Forget your mental anguish.
My bathing suit.
What?
My bathing suit top and my picture, she still hasn't returned.
Do you have any of that stuff?
I have her bathing suit top, but she came in the house and got everything else.
No, ma'am, I did not
that
go in
belonged
their
to
house.
her.
Whatever. I don't have anything else in the complaint about anything else. You have a bathing suit top? You give her a bathing suit top. Okay. As far as your lawsuit, which seeks damages for mental anguish of $1,500 because you saw your CDs burn, you better go and wash out your mouth. And when you learn not to cuss at adults, then we'll talk about mental anguish. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They had a pretty good argument, and I went out to break it up, and like I said, they just kind of turned on us.
I don't care what they said to them or cussed or whatever. They're adults and they're children.
I just hope everybody can get along now.
And now the next case.
All parties on Trimble versus Maurer. Step forward, please.
41-year-old accountant Julie Trimble is suing her ex-boyfriend, 34-year-old handyman Jeffrey Maurer, for a series of unpaid loans to pay his bills.
All right, let's cut to the chase, Miss Trimble. You lived with this man for 3 years, according to your complaint, and say that over the course of the 3 years, he built up a debt to you for miscellaneous bills and expenses. He finally decided to leave sometime in October of this year. He gave you a check, packed his bags, and left.
Correct.
And now you went over all your bills, and you want him to pay a whole bunch of money that he hadn't paid over the 3 years you were living together.
Correct.
Did he ever sign a note to you?
No, ma'am, he did not.
Did he ever sign a lease with you?
No, ma'am, he did not.
Did you have a lease agreement with him, even though it wasn't in writing?
No, ma'am, I did not.
So what do you think he owes you for?
Over the course of 3 years, I just basically went back from last December. He was living with me. We were boyfriend and girlfriend, and he had agreed to pay a third of the rent and the utilities because it was myself, my daughter, and him living there. And he also had incurred a lot of personal expenses that he didn't have the means to pay at the time. So I loaned him money on just various things, paying for his utility bills at a house that he was refurbishing.
Well, what was the repayment agreement? If you say you made these loans to him, what was the repayment agreement?
That I would pay these bills for him and he would pay me as soon as he got back on his feet.
What if he never got back on his feet?
Well, his whole contention is that he was rebuilding this house of his and he was going to sell the house, and he also had a truck that he was trying to sell, and with those proceeds he was to reimburse me for all of these expenses. I have a ledger that I made up for him. I used to give him periodically, plus I have backup of all of the utilities, the groceries, all of the personal checks.
Miss Trimble, we don't do that in court. If two people decide to live together without benefit of marriage, and then they break up, which they do more than 50% of the time, probably more than 80% of the time, and then come to courts and say, listen, we lived together for 3 years, we lived together for 10 years. During that time, I paid for this, and he was supposed to pay me back, and he never did, and that was 3 years ago or 5 years ago. If you expect courts to get involved with that, you're barking up the wrong court. I tell you that. Put your hand down. I didn't ask you anything.
Yes, sir.
Good. Women do this. It seems to be women do it a lot more often than men. Women say, I'll take care of him. He promised as soon as his uncle straightens out, he's going to give you the money. As soon as he puts his life in order. As soon as he gets the house built. As soon as he sells the truck. Some people never get their lives in order, Miss Trimble.
Right. Well,
And he did give you a check when he left.
Yes, he did.
And in what amount was that check?
That check was for $2,200.
He said it was $2,800. You have the check?
Yes, I have the check here, and
I'd
yes,
like to see it.
I was mistaken. It is $2,200.
Can I see it, please?
And also 2 other checks that I gave her within weeks of leaving anyway. So I actually gave her over $3,000.
Who crossed out paid in full?
I did when I cashed the check.
No, you can't do that, Miss Trimble.
He hadn't paid me in full.
No, Miss Trimble, you can't do that, madam. What you are alleging is that over the course of 3 years, you advanced money to this man.
Correct.
And he gave you a check at the time you terminated your living arrangement, and he had written on the check, loan payoff paid in full. You accepted the check, and then you cashed it. If you choose not to accept this check as full payment of all loans, you don't cash it. Give it back to him.
Well,
and let me finish. Okay. And you say to him, I'm not accepting this check. Give me another check that just says partial payment on loans, and then we have an agreement that this was partial payment on the loan. But you cannot take a check and change the face of the check and cash it and say he still owes me more money. You can't do that.
Well, at the time that he had given me that check, he left it laying on my table, moved out, and I had no way to get a hold of him. So my only best interest was to go there, cash the check at his bank the next morning when they opened, so I would at least be guaranteed part of the money that he owed me.
And that's what you were guaranteed, and that's what you're going to get. Period. Who are you?
I'm a friend of hers.
You know anything about the law?
No, I don't.
Good.
But I'd like to add something, Your Honor.
About
You're
what?
saying the loan. Rent and utilities are not loans.
Thank you very much. I didn't ask for an instruction in the law. The law is that you accept a check in full payment of all outstanding loans, and you've accepted that check. You cannot change that check and say, it's not all that you owe me. Now you owe me more. So, Miss Trimble, be smarter the next time. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Casino dealers Pauline and Richard Urino are suing their neighbor, 35-year-old business owner Raymond Long, for harassment. Raymond says the Urinos blame him for a denied business permit.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 451 on the calendar in the matter of Urino versus Long. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. and Mrs. Urino, you and the defendant are neighbors.
Yes.
You built your home with the expectation of being able to run a business out of your home.
Yes.
And that business was selling used cars.
Yes, ma'am.
You invested a substantial amount of money building driveways and paving areas in order to comply with city regulations.
Yes, ma'am.
Thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And when you applied for your permit to sell these used cars from your property, according to you, the defendant, as well as other neighbors, objected and were very vocal about their opposition to you selling used cars from your house, as a result of which you were denied a permit. And that started the trouble.
Your Honor, we weren't denied. We were approved first.
And then denied because of him and the neighbors.
So first you were approved, and then because of the opposition, denied.
One guy showed up and
appealed
it.
And who was that?
Another neighbor.
Another neighbor.
Good.
Yes. He's next.
Now that started the difficulty with you and the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that you were particularly angry about is that this particular defendant runs a carpet cleaning business from his home.
Yes, ma'am.
So you say, how can he object to my business when he runs a business out of his home?
Yes, ma'am.
And then all kinds of things started. You claimed that he was dumping some stuff from his carpet cleaning business into the town sewers, and you were taking photographs of that, and arguments ensued, and you want damages because of the constant harassment by the defendants. Now, who's going to speak? You
I'll
are.
speak.
I assumed you would.
Yes.
So, Mrs. Urino, I'd like you to tell me, what is the basis for your lawsuit?
Okay, the basis for our lawsuit is harassment.
Give me the date.
The date is June 7th.
Okay, what happened on June 7th?
He came over to our property. We had taken a picture of him because it was like about 11:30, quarter to midnight. It was the night that we got denied.
It was the night that you were denied your permit.
Yes.
So what did you do?
We were out riding around because we were upset. Okay.
No, they were out.
I'll get to you in a second.
All right.
So you were very upset.
Yes,
Permit's
we were
denied.
upset. So we went to the store, we're coming home, and we see all this commotion behind our home. This man has run his business for 2 years. We never said a word, never complained. Well, we had it up to here. We went around the corner. I snapped 2 pictures of his. He had 5 employees out there. His 11-year-old daughter, 3 of his vans, a tow truck. I've got a photo of it. He had them all out there in the front yard, making all kinds of racket. So, snapped the 2 pictures, didn't say a word to anybody, went back to my house around the block. He comes skidding around the corner so fast. He starts cussing at my husband. He didn't get out in the beginning. He just had the window rolled down. So he started cussing. My husband got upset because they were cussing at each other, right? So he gets out of the van, and I thought they were going to fight. So I'm backing up towards the house. Meanwhile, I had my camera in my hand. I'm like this, you know. So I back up. He gets out of the van, and he's saying, "You ever come over my house?" He says, "On my street," he said, "I'll blow your heads off." I mean, but he said the word. So I'm looking at him. So anyway, so I thought they were, shut up. Up, sorry. Excuse me.
You'll have a turn.
All right.
Go ahead.
So we were standing there. He gets out of the van. He starts.
Well, he's already out of the
he's
van,
out of
and
the
they're
van.
cursing at each. Listen to me,
they're
Miss
cursing.
Urena.
Okay.
They're out of the van, and they're both cursing at each other.
Right. So now I thought they were going to fight, and all he did was just stand there and kept yelling. So I snapped 2 pictures, which are the pictures I have here, showing my husband in the van and him angry, going away from my property because he was leaving. And then he skids back around the corner. Sure enough, half hour later, here come the police, tick, 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 at my door. We welcomed him in, explained to them what happened. They told my husband, "We're going to write you a citation." My husband says, "I'm not signing anything."
Just a second.
Okay.
What were they writing your husband a citation for?
They said that Ray Long told them that my husband punched in the door of his van.
And your husband said what?
My husband said, "I am not going to sign anything because I didn't do any damage to your van."
Right.
To the van. And he asked to see the van, and the police officer said no. They said, "Wait till the next day, and then you can see the van."
So they wanted him to sign an acknowledgement that he received the citation.
Right.
And your husband refused to do that, so what happened to him?
They put him in handcuffs in my living room, took him out for about now this all happened before the ticket was written.
I don't care. Okay. Listen, that's between you and the police department.
Right.
The idea was they wanted to give him a ticket. He had to sign for it. Your husband said, "I'm not signing anything." They said, "Oh, yes, you are."
Yes, you are.
They put him in handcuffs. Put your hand down. Your wife's not letting you speak yet.
Okay.
They took him outside, and they kept him outside. You blame him for that.
Yes, the officer went back around the corner, and then with him wrote the citation, and he signed it.
Right, of course, because your husband wouldn't sign the ticket.
Okay, he did sign the ticket. My husband did sign it.
Eventually.
Actually,
when they came back.
Mr. Urena, if you had signed this citation when the officer had given it to you, the officer would have left your house. Is that right?
No,
of course. Oh, yes, he would have. Would have
The
said, "You have to
citation
respond to
wasn't
this."
Ma'am,
It wasn't
can
there.
Can I speak now? Actually, they weren't writing the citation. They came over for me to sign it. They said that he was going to
write the citation.
That he was citing me, not the police officer.
Let me read you from your complaint. When my husband refused to sign the ticket, he was placed in handcuffs and held for 45 minutes.
Yes, that was my, yes, okay.
That's what you said?
Yes, that's what I said.
Well, that's what happened. All right, what's next?
All the charges were dismissed against my husband because I took pictures of the van, dated pictures from the 7th through the 14th. There was no damage on that van. He had 2 pictures that he showed the judge that showed damage to the van. When he left my property, there was no damage on that van. So I don't know who damaged it, but it wasn't us. And all charges were dismissed. I've got right here. And also he got all the neighbors to lie for him.
Don't say he got neighbors to lie unless you have witnesses here.
I have
you
proof.
Can't. No.
Timesheets.
Unless you have witnesses here, you can't say he got people to lie for him. All right. What's the next harassment?
Okay, and we had put in also because he was complaining about our property saying that we are, because we are Mexican, that we are running a chop shop and our car lot was supposed to be like a front to cover up for a drug ring.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Pauline and Richard Urino say neighbor Raymond Long lied under oath, causing them to be denied a business permit.
Show me where he said that.
He said it verbally. He wouldn't put it in writing.
Where did he say it verbally?
He said it at the public response office.
Just a minute. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Were you present?
No.
Then you can't tell me that. That's hearsay.
Okay.
All the neighbors say that, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Show me a neighbor.
The neighbors aren't here.
Right.
Okay, so just the constant harassment. I've got pictures of police in front of my house that when they served, the pictures when the police came to serve us for the order of protection. I mean, these things that were things on the internet.
Just 1 second. Who filed for an order of protection?
He did. That's the affidavit with the order of protection right here, where he states, and I can verify.
This is his affidavit for an order of protection.
His affidavit.
That I will see.
Okay.
He accused me of taking pictures of his daughter. I didn't even know he had a daughter.
This is my timesheets to prove where I was on those nights.
I didn't even know this man had a wife. The whole time we seen this
we never
man
see him hardly.
behind us, we seen him up by himself in a house. Okay, I didn't know this man was married. I got kids, teenagers, you know, that I got 3 teenagers, and he's accusing me or my wife. We're not even sure which one.
Of his daughter.
That we were taking pictures of his daughter when we don't even know. We didn't even know that he had a daughter, and I don't know what he really meant by that either. So he did nothing but lie on everything.
All right. Now, what happened with the order of protection? Did you receive an order of protection, sir?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Can I see?
It was a temporary order of protection for 30 days until the trial.
Well, was the trial completed?
Yes, it was,
And
and
what
they
happened?
eventually did drop the case.
Okay.
I actually brought the order of protection itself.
Can I see it?
We got 2 citations, Your Honor. One was dismissed, and one was
eliminated.
eliminated. In other words, we didn't have to go to court. They just called us on the phone one day, and they said it was eliminated.
Okay. Now,
We had this problem with this.
let's take the first basis for your suit here today, which is that he conspired with other neighbors to deny you an opportunity to earn a living from your home by complaining to the zoning board or whoever issues a permit, thereby causing them to reverse their original order, granting you a permit.
Right.
They have an absolute right to do that,
Yes.
whether he did it or not. If somebody lives in a residential community and feels as if one of their neighbors is doing something that is going to devalue their property or impede their safety.
To complain, Your Honor, but not to lie.
Not to lie.
Not
Just
to
a
lie.
second.
And
Just a
put it down
second.
on paper and sign.
Just a second. I haven't seen a lie, and if you want to show me a lie...
I'll show you a lie. It's
Let me-
in your hands.
What?
The affidavit there that is with Justice Court that he filed, that he just told you he filed. He said...
I'm not talking about the order of protection, madam. I'm talking about your business, which really started this whole problem.
Right.
Show me where he lied with regard to his complaint.
He wouldn't put it in writing.
Then you have no proof that he lied with regard to his complaint that he didn't want you to sell used cars out of the front yard of your home.
Now, can I say something else?
No,
Please?
you have to answer my question, not say something else.
Okay.
You have no proof that he lied.
Right. Can I show you the area that we live in?
Show me the area.
Okay. This is the area where we live. There are homes. Here, that one, this one. So there's really no complaint for him.
We built there, Your Honor, for one purpose.
We got 7 lanes of highway in front of us.
To start a business there, okay? That's the purpose we built there. And everything's up to commercial code. We went and tried to...
Then what you do is you have to appeal. That has nothing to do with your neighbors. Where is your home on this street?
No,
Hold on, I've got mine. Mine is right here.
That's the back of it.
This is mine.
I've got their
Two-story
home.
house.
Right here.
With all, they sell cars anyway.
Oh, now you're accusing us of doing
Shut up, I don't
something?
want to hear.
Liar.
This is not over. We're going back again.
See, this is another threat. He threatens me all the time.
Absolutely, I can see
All the
that.
time.
You got a hot head.
Yeah.
Man, he's threatened me.
Just a minute. Listen, I want to tell you something. I, living in that community, could understand why some people would be disturbed by having your private house with all of these old used cars in front of them in the parking lot. He has a right to complain that he doesn't like the way this looks in his community. You have a right to bring it through the administrative process. What you did was you got really angry.
Angry.
And what you
Mad.
did, you got really angry. And it was, I assume, vented at Mr. Long.
Yes.
Because Mr. Long also ran a business out of his house.
Right.
All right.
Bottom line, Your Honor, he's jealous. That's the
Of
bottom
us.
line.
He's
okay?
jealous of us.
He's
Just
just
a
plain
second.
jealous.
Bottom line is, you have no lawsuit.
I know we don't have a lawsuit.
So what are you doing here for?
Well, because we thought, because he put us through all of this, I mean,
We've been
he
going-
won't stop.
we've been
He
going
doesn't
through him
stop.
on
He
this
would
for about
stop.
a year.
Listen to me. Whatever happened that night, you see, you don't have to say a word. Yet. Maybe never. What happened that night was you were angry.
Your Honor.
Shut up. Quiet. You got a hot head.
You want to see a lie? I'll show you a lie. The ticket, it says that there was a hole in the van. You show me a hole in the van. Where's a hole in that van? My husband never punched a hole in his van. That is a lie.
Did the
He
police
damaged-
return? Just quiet. Did the police return to your home that evening?
Yes.
Did you, in fact, show them any damage to the van?
Yes, I did.
What did you show them? Can I see it, please?
Now
Your Honor,
Yes.
the damage to the van is long gone. It was a malicious destruction of property that the city prosecutor found enough evidence to pursue. It was dropped. I let it go. It's $250. I don't even care about it anymore. I just would like the Uranians to leave me alone.
Your Honor.
How did... Quiet. Tell me what happened.
As they had been doing for about a month before, coming by weekly, and I have the events all in writing, but weekly, taking pictures of everything that I do. I was getting
Stop
tired.
flipping pages.
I was getting tired of it. And this was basically the last straw, 12 o'clock at night. I have a problem with one of my vans that gets towed home. They jump out of bed and drive over and start snapping pictures right there in front of my property.
Okay.
And it's annoying.
So you went back, you were
I went
hot
over
too.
to talk to them. From the second I drove up, Mr. Urena was in my face. And in the passenger door, looking through, I had the window down. And yes, the conversation got heated, and that's when he punched the door. He was in such a rage, he might not even remember punching the door. Bottom line is, I don't even care about the dent anymore. It's...
You just want to be left alone.
Just leave me alone.
Your Honor, now can I say something? I can prove right here that he's lying with that picture.
Go ahead.
These pictures were dated. His picture
Are not
is not
dated.
dated. Okay, these pictures were taken 3 days after he claimed that there was a damage.
7 days,
Okay.
14th.
Now, he claimed that I punched that van. Okay, there was no. If you look at that picture, I mean, I'm not a body man, and I'm not an attorney. Okay, but I can tell you this: there's not a punch with my fist on that van. That's what he
Screwdriver.
claimed.
He has nothing in his hand.
That's what he claimed, okay? This is the picture. We took the picture 3 days later, and there was no damage to that van.
What do you think, he did it himself?
Yes,
I don't know.
Just a second. You think the police wrote out a ticket? Listen to me.
We don't know,
You
ma'am.
think
We don't know.
We
the
don't know.
police
We don't
wrote-
know.
You didn't let me finish.
Wait.
Okay,
Hothead.
okay.
Hothead.
I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
We both are.
Oh, sure you are.
Yeah.
You're a hothead.
Both of us.
Well, just look at the evidence, ma'am. That's all you gotta see, and that tells you who's lying and who's not lying.
No, it doesn't.
And there's no date on his pictures. Mine are dated.
Mine are dated.
Up to the 14th,
I don't know
7
what
days
the
after.
police did.
We're going to find out when we get home.
Hey,
Yes.
No, ma'am. We're not.
you can change a date.
See, it's never going to end. It's never
You
going to
can
end.
change
No, it
a
won't.
date on a camera.
My
Oh,
originals are dated.
You're not listening to me.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Your complaint was that he caused your husband to be handcuffed and held. Your husband caused himself to be handcuffed and held because your husband refused to sign the ticket. They said, hands together, we're taking you into custody. You were humiliated in front of your wife, maybe your family, maybe your children. That's your fault. But I'm going to tell you something. If you're going to spend your time in a vendetta against this man and your other neighbors, you're going to diminish the quality of your lives and theirs. He's not moving.
Neither
I
am
am
I.
sorry that you invested your money anticipating that you could have a business there, finding that you can't have a business there.
No,
and
we can't. We
spending
are
the-
C1. We are zone C1. Yes, ma'am, we can.
You can't have this kind of,
That
business,
kind of
business there.
right.
So you have a frustration. Get over it. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step.
24-year-old Nicole Johnson is suing her neighbor, 23-year-old Sally Jones, for the cost to fix her car. Nicole claims Sally's son, 5-year-old Darian, scratched her paint job with rocks.
Miss Johnson, your complaint is that Miss Jones's son, that would be this little tyke over here, vandalized your car with some sort of an implement. You want her to pay for the damage. Miss Jones says, well, she's not sure if her son did it, and if he did it, he had an accomplice of similar age, and why aren't you suing the accomplice too? That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Jones, let me ask you this question. If you believe that your son was responsible for part of the damage, you would acknowledge that and would be prepared to pay for part of the damage. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
What proof do you have that Miss Jones's son, because you didn't see it, vandalized your car?
I have a witness who says she saw him do it.
Okay. When did this happen?
July 11th at approximately 7:30, 8 a.m.
And the witness that you had would be this little girl?
Mm-hmm.
And she's 5?
Yes.
Whose child is she?
One of our other neighbors. Her name's Angela Twyman.
And what's her name?
Michaela.
Michaela, would you like to come up and talk to me?
There you go. Okay. You all right? Okay.
Hi, Michaela. Do you know who I am? You don't know? Do you know why you're here? And you don't know why you're here. Who did you come with today? Oh, I see this is going to be interesting. Do you know this little boy? Is he a friend of yours? Do you know Miss Jones? Is she a neighbor of yours? Can you talk? Can you tell me your full name? Let me hear.
Michaela.
And what's your last name, Michaela?
Michaela and Timon.
Do you want to talk to me about what happened with Miss Johnson's car? You want to tell me what happened? Okay, tell me what happened.
He spit on the car.
He spit on the car? Did you see him do that? Did you see him do anything else to the car, Michaela? What else did you see him do?
He scratched it.
What did he scratch it with?
A rock.
Did you see him with the rock in his hand? Did you have a rock in your hand? Was anybody else with him when he had the rock in his hand?
No.
But you're sure you saw him scratch the car with a rock? After you saw him scratch the car, Michaela, did you go and tell anybody? Who did you tell?
His parents.
His parents? Oh, did you tell them right away? Okay. You can go and sit down now. Thank you. Michaela came and told you that about that?
No, ma'am.
She never came and told you about it?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you?
I called. I assume that from the way the marks are, they're huge, just circles, scribbles, they're all at very low positions. I assumed it was a child, and I assumed that if I asked enough children, one of them would tell on the other. So I called her parents and I said, you know, later on today when the kids are home, please ask them if they saw anyone playing around Miss Nikki's car. And in the background, I could hear her say, I did, I saw Darian. And her mom said, well, will you do me a favor? Will you go outside and on Mommy's car, will you touch the spots that you saw him touching on Miss Nikki's car? And she said, okay, she's touching the hood, the driver's side door, and the passenger door on the same side as the driver's side. And she said, is that right? And I said, yeah, that's exactly where the damage is.
Tell me your name.
Darian.
Darian, I want you to come up here and sit up here and talk to me. Trouble. A handful.
Yes, thank you. I do know that.
A handful.
Okay. Tell me, Judy. Okay.
Me and Michaela did it.
You and Michaela both did it? Well, tell me how that happened, Darian.
Me and Michaela had rocks.
Well, how many rocks did you have in your hand?
One.
And where did you get the rock from?
Off the ground.
And what about Michaela? Did she have a rock too?
Yeah.
So why did you decide to scratch Miss Johnson's car?
I don't know.
Well, does your mom have a car?
Yeah, gray.
Hmm?
Gray.
She has a gray car. Darian, if you saw children scratching your mother's car, would you be angry with them? Because that's not the right thing to do, right? And your mommy would be very upset that somebody scratched her car, wouldn't she? She would be sad. Are you ever going to do that again? Because you know you can get into trouble for doing that to other people's property, right? How many marks did you make on the car? And how many marks did Michaela make on the car? So you made more marks than Michaela. Did Michaela make bigger marks than you or littler marks than you? She made smaller marks than you. Show me with your hands how big were the marks that you made on the car. Big ones. And she made little ones. Is that right? She made little ones, and show me your size. The ones you made were bigger ones. Now, when your mom asked you about Miss Johnson's car, did you tell her the truth right away?
My dad.
You told your dad the truth right away? And what did you tell him?
I scratched it.
And when did you tell your mom and your dad that Michaela was there too?
I didn't tell him. I only told my dad.
When did you tell your dad that Michaela was there too? Did you tell him right away, or did you tell him later?
Right away.
Okay. Go and step down. I have a feeling you did a little more damage than Michaela did, but my sense is that Michaela was there. Made a few little marks. Miss Johnson, I know that you don't like to believe it, but cute little Michaela scratched your car. She didn't do as much damage as this little guy did. And in his own 5-year-old way, he really told me the truth about that, because I don't know how many scratches were on the car, but clearly he said he did more than she did. And when I asked him, you saw, how big were her scratches? He said, well, they were really teeny. Mine were bigger. Well, one gets the sense that at least he's telling the truth, that there was some co-participation.
And she said that she helped him wipe them off with the spit so that he wouldn't get into trouble. That's what she told her mom.
Oh, okay.
She said, I helped, he spit all over the car, and I helped him rub them off, but they weren't coming off.
Okay. So you get it, that Michaela's folks have to be responsible for some of the damage to the car.
I also have rental car receipts because they said it's going to take 4 to 5 days. So I have $182.04 because they won't do it